Welcome to Mystara for the first video of the year, and we might as well go big in our 2021 debut with the giants of Mystara. Not just your typical giants like the hill and stone varieties, but giants native specifically to Mystara like the twisted athach, the powerful haephaston, or the underwater sea giant. Most of the lore on giants is filtered through the Forgotten Realms. Only Mystara's big boys throw out that lore and replace it with their own. So where do they live? What do they eat? Who do they eat? I'm Mr. Welch, and it's time to go big or go home. First thing I have to emphasize is that for those that follow 5th edition, our giants ignore everything about the ordning. Mystara doesn't have a giant-sized pecking order. If a hill giant can take down a fire giant, it won't think twice about social status. A frost giant is under no obligation to follow the order of a storm giant, and all the giants do their own thing regardless of what the others think. The Mystaran giants were created in the distant past by the immortal Oranos, or most of them were, though since his disappearance, giants have been free to worship other immortals. Mystara's giants have long been plagued with infighting, with wars between various giants commonplace. First up, hill giants are the most numerous of the giants, and the least organized. They aren't related to other giants, but instead come from beastmen stock originally. They are caught between the giants, who they resemble physically, and the humanoids, who they tend to share the same motivations with. Hill giants are typically raiders and bandits, rarely planning anything further than their next meal. Other giants see them as simpletons, but will bully them into servitude. The hill giants see the smaller humanoids as beneath them, but lack the intelligence to form any sort of warband. For the more civilized species, they're pests, incredibly dangerous pests, but not a threat outside oversized bandits. Mountain giants are unique to Mystara, and possibly the friendliest of all the giants. They have an unusually friendly relationship with the dwarves of Rockholm, and have been found in their armies on numerous occasions. Mountain giants make their homes high in the peaks, where they form strong family bonds and live in small communities from strongholds carved into the rocks. Younger giants will often travel down the mountains in search of adventure and treasure, and they don't have to travel far to find work. Mountain giants are known for their genuinely friendly nature, and count humans and demi-humans often as their allies. Since they live in the parts of the mountains dwarves have little use for, the two races have formed a sort of symbiotic relationship, with the giants performing physical tasks for the dwarves and serving as shock troops, and the dwarves supplying the giants with all sorts of weapons and armor in payment. Mystaran stone giants have a unique background among the giants, as while they were created by an immortal as a giant race, they weren't created at the same time as the other giants, or even by the same immortal. Because of this, they tend to be isolated from the other giants, living in settlements at the base of mountains. One noticeable difference with stone giants is their biology, as unlike other giants, stone giants lay eggs. The eggs can be quite valuable, but require care that only stone giants know in order to hatch, and stealing a stone giant's egg is a good way to become several feet shorter. Stone giants are highly protective of their territory, but will allow travelers to pass through in exchange for a toll. This does make them enemies of nations like Giantkin, but the giants also keep their territories free of monsters and bandits, so they do serve a useful role along the trade routes. Frost giants are some of the most organized giants in Mystara, even going so far as organizing their own nation-state in the far northern Sklogtir Island. Frost giants are raiders in nature, heading out in winter to take what they want so they can weather the summer in their frozen homeland. They are a constant threat to places like Norwald, but they can also be found in numbers in the northern reaches. They are the only group of seafaring giants, using massive longboats to raid southern shores. They also extort tribute from nearby settlements in lieu of raiding them constantly. Cloud giants do not have a terrestrial home, instead living in floating castles in the sky. In ancient times, the cloud giants, called the Brimdignags in their own tongue, fought a disastrous war with the fire giants. Cloud giants then were called the Valley Giants, living in lush and fertile valleys where they thrived. A war over resources with the fire giants leveled the cloud giant settlements and drove them into the mountains, where a sympathetic immortal crafted for them the flying castles that became their trademark. The castles provide the cloud giants with all they need for food and drink, so they spend their time by politicking among themselves. They rarely descend to the ground, and visitors aren't welcome in their castles normally. In fact, most visitors are considered meat for the larder if they arrive uninvited. Fire giants are among the most hated of all the giants. Apart from their eternal feud with the cloud giants, fire giants also share a mutual hatred with dwarves, mountain giants, and even made enemies of the normally neutral haephastons. Fire giants are greedy beyond measure, and not above taking what they want with heavily armed and armored raiding parties. Their organization varies from tribe to tribe, with some making only the simplest of fortifications, while others creating massive castles capable of breaking entire siege armies against its walls. They engage in slavery far more than other giants, as apart from forging and warring, they can't be bothered to perform other tasks. Storm giants are the last of the common giants in Mystara, and they have the unusual problem with the race is almost exclusively male. Female storm giants do exist, but they are generally less than a tenth of the population. This means most storm giants are the result of matings with cloud giants. True storm giants do exist. While they lack the elemental powers normally given to them by mating with cloud giants, they are also much larger and stronger than their half-blooded relatives. Storm giants are above mortal concerns. Their lifespans are longer than elves. They prefer to live in distant, secluded locations where they keep to themselves. As you can expect, they get along fine with cloud giants, who they see as equals, and they're on friendly terms with cyclops of all things, who tend their herds for them. They are the sworn enemies of fire and frost giants, but powerful enough to dominate those battles on the rare occasion when they do occur. Sea giants are another race of giants specific to Mystara. These giants are aquatic in nature, unable to breathe air, though they can hold their breath for quite some time. They tend to be loners in their environment, not because of any antisocial traits, but they have a reputation for being clumsy due to their immense size. They're friendly enough among their own kind. However, among groups of smaller creatures, they can be dangerous due to the increased risk of accident. They're good friends with whales, where their size is not an issue, and they've even used whales as mounts on occasion. Whether the haephaston is a true giant or not is a matter of debate among scholars, as they are from ogre stock, only horribly changed. A haephaston is literally a half-giant, a single eye, a single arm sprouting from the center of their chest, and hopping on a single leg centered under their torso. Haephastons hate all living creatures, with the sole exception of ogres and orcs. Their favorite pastime is torture, and consider the screams of the dying music to their ears. They're surprisingly agile despite their deformity, something that they use to catch potential victims by surprise. Because of their sadistic nature, most governments consider it a priority to eliminate haephastons where found, before local populations start plummeting. Athachs are the only giants of lesser status than the hill giants, being twisted parodies of other giants, with their defining trait being a single arm growing out of the center of their chest. Athachs are brutes, low in intelligence and high in strength. They're one of the few giants to form family units and will attack in groups despite their low intelligence. They're considered a menace to be eradicated, even by the standard of other giants. At the highest end of the power scale for giants sits the haephaston. Similar in appearance to fire giants, only several feet taller, haephaston are known for their immortal level smithing skills. Haephaston are solitary beings, rarely found in pairs. They spend most of their lives crafting magical artifacts of staggering power, often for the immortals themselves. They are rivaled in their forging skills only by the insane Modrig's work, and the haephaston don't attach curses to their creations. Few creatures can threaten one. Alone they're a match for even the most powerful dragons. Decked out in handcrafted relics and ready to fight, they would put a challenge to the most powerful extraplanar creatures imaginable. Fortunately for their neighbors, haephaston have no desire for conquest or war. Only the forge matters to them. Those are the giants of Mystara. There was not a lot of information on their ecology. The bestiary of giants and dragons was the most informative. Giants rarely deal with each other in Mystara, with a few exceptions. Instead, they're creatures with their own unique motivations and objectives. The fact that giants have multiple creation stories also adds to their uniqueness. I was looking at the options coming up for 2021, and I'm making a change on how I'm going to be presenting the stories. I'm having to do away with the polls. It's a practical change, as I've acquired the Thunder Rift line, and there's no point in asking you which module you want reviewed next, as you would have no idea what most of them are even about. This also means I can start writing topics without wondering what the final version is going to be in case of a close vote. I do have 52 topics lined up and ready to go, and I will be going in order on the list. No longer will topics be lingering for months waiting to be told. This means it's time to run the table, and we're starting with the Thanagoeth Archipelago. But until next week, remember what my 7-foot-plus former boss told me. Nothing becalms a man faster than being palmed by his face.